Welcome to Santa Clarita Weekly, where we cover all things local in Santa Clarita Valley every Saturday morning at 9 on KQRU 107.9. Join hosts Tim Haddock and Sage Rafferty as they uncover the latest news, events, sports highlights, and more, keeping you connected and engaged with what matters most in our hometown.
All right, welcome back for another edition of Santa Clarita Weekly with Tim Haddock and Sage Rafferty. I'm Sage. He's Tim. You can listen to us on the radio at KQRU 107.9 FM on Saturday mornings at 9 o'clock. We are also on YouTube and Instagram, and you can find us online at santaclaritastar.com. All right, so this week we're going to be talking about the Women's March Foundation based in Los Angeles marked the second anniversary of Roe v. Wade overturning with a city hall news conference. Founder Emiliana Guereca discussed the foundation's progress and future goals. June was Pride Month, and PFLAG ended it with a LGBTQIA plus forum at St. Stephen's, where I spoke to founders Jeff and Peggy Stabile about the organization. In sports, Santa Clarita's Jeremy Bischoff completed in the U.S. men's Gymnastics Olympic Trials, but missed the cut for the Paris Olympics. While the Dodgers, despite a strong start, dropped 2 of 3 games to the Giants, yet remain on track for a 100-win season. All right, Tim, do you want to start us out and talk about the interview that you had with Emiliana Guereca?
Yes. So the Women's March Foundation marked the anniversary of the overturning of Roe versus Wade with a news conference. They called it a walkout. It was really kind of a media event in front of the City Hall in Los Angeles. Emiliana Guereca started the Women's March Foundation to protest the election of Donald Trump as president in 2016. She helped organize one of the largest protest marches in the country's history the following year. And since then, the foundation has grown nationally. It started as a Los Angeles and Southern California-based group and has become an advocacy group for women's rights, human rights, and reproductive rights. Bringing attention to the overturning of Roe versus Wade by the Supreme Court was a reminder that women's rights in America are being stripped. They're being stripped away. The bans and restrictions on abortions in parts of the country is an attack on women's rights. It's a move that set back women's rights 50 years, she said. It is also an attack on healthcare for women, healthcare for infants and children. The event in Los Angeles to mark the anniversary of the overturning of Roe versus Wade attracted some heavy hitters. Senator Alex Padilla, U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services, Xavier Becerra, and prominent members of Congress attended and spoke at the event. It was a coordinated effort with similar gatherings in other cities in Colorado, Illinois, and Texas, and throughout the United States. So since the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade 2 years ago, 14 states led by Republican governors and legislators have passed heavy restrictions on abortions. 3 more states have changed their abortion and reproductive laws to put restrictions on access to care and medical procedures. The Women's March Foundation wants to change the direction the country is on regarding abortion restrictions, women's health care, and women's rights. So California has not changed laws restricting abortions and reproductive care for women, and in traditionally conservative states like Kansas, Kentucky, and Ohio, voters have passed amendments to their constitutions guaranteeing abortion rights for women. But the work to preserve and protect women's rights is what Guereca calls a lifetime commitment. She plans to continue bringing attention to women's rights and healthcare issues for a very long time. We talked to Emiliana about her work and about how much work the foundation still needs to do. I wanted to find out about the organization. It's the Women's March Foundation, right? Women's March Foundation? Okay. And it's a national organization. I wanted to ask about how it's organized nationally, if it's organized regionally, and how you fit into that organization, and how much work are you doing to make the LA chapter, the Southern California region grow?
Right. So I'm the president and founder of Women's March Foundation. Women's March Foundation is started in the late 2016, right after President Trump was elected, and we decided to organize a march that we took place in 2017, and we are based out of Los Angeles. I understood at the time that we needed to continue to organize beyond the one-day march. We are part of that big movement, the organization that is considered the national arm of all of this is Women's March, Inc. And we collaborate, we work together as much as possible across the country. I am president of Women's March Foundation. We have chapters within chapters. We've got, if someone wants to organize, we will help them organize. Our whole goal and mission is to make sure that women's issues are at the forefront, that we advocate, that there's advocacy for women beyond the one-day march, and that we continue to speak on women's equality, women's equity around all of the issues. And the realistic part is that every issue is a woman's issue. And most people don't think about that. But after the fall of Roe, June 24th, 2022, we know that it is even more imperative to continue to talk on why women are not equal, and now even less closer to equal is where we're at. So the fall rule meant that we no longer, that there's no longer federal right to abortion access in each state. And so Women's March Foundation really needed to speak on that and continue to advocate for that. Yes, we are based in California, but from here, we were one of the first states to enshrine abortion rights post the fall of Roe. So we make sure that we continue to speak on it, to advocate for it, and especially when we say that now this right is left up to the states and is no longer left to the federal government, right? With all of it. So then it is imperative that from California to DC, that all women continue to advocate for reproductive rights across the country. But not only that, just because we have it in California doesn't mean that we don't also help our sisters fight for that same right in different states. We've done it successfully in Kansas, we've done it successfully in Oklahoma, and we will continue to do so.
Okay, let me ask a couple questions, because I want to get a little more specific about the goals of the organization. Recently, this was just a couple weeks ago, your organization led a rally in Los Angeles. You went down to City Hall. Was it City Hall or
City Hall?
City Hall. And you organized a group to bring awareness to the, number one, the overturning of Roe versus Wade, but more importantly, to bring attention to, like you said, the fight for women's rights and the fight for human rights, which is essentially what this is all about too. Can you give me a little more details about what that rally was about, and was it turn out the way you wanted? Okay,
I'm going to pull it back a little bit. It wasn't a rally, it was a press conference. So we organized a press conference to make sure that we commemorated the day, right? The press conference was really to raise awareness, mobilize support, and continue to demand action from our elected officials, but more than that, to mobilize voters. The current situation is that women are in danger across the country with little to no access to reproductive rights. And so it was a press conference, but it was a call to action across the country. It wasn't just in LA. There were plenty of actions organized on that same date in different states, from Colorado to Illinois to New York to definitely Texas and Austin. So part of it is part of that movement that needs to continue to raise awareness, and as our sign says, stay loud,
Right.
to continue so that there is no apathy. We're not going to go away. The issue of reproductive rights is not going to go away. The other part to it is that it's 2024. It is an election year, and currently there are abortion will be on the ballot in many different states, in Arizona and Florida, Nebraska, among some of them. And so we have to continue to make sure that it is at the forefront when we think about voting in 2024, when we think about who we are electing in 2024 at our local, at our state and federal level, that we understand that reproductive rights are on the ballot across the country. So that was part of our press conference agenda.
So who was the audience then for the press conference? I mean, obviously this is a national message you want to get out, but was it directed at anybody in particular?
The audience is everyone, because reproductive rights affect everyone. But the other piece to it is that it's been politicized, right? Whether it's one party or the other party, why are women's rights politicized? Why should reproductive rights be a political agenda?
Got it. Other thing I wanted to ask you too is because I don't have a feel for how much this movement has grown, and it's been around for 8 years now, 7, 8 years. How have you seen it grown, and is it going in the direction that you want it to?
It's grown in a different way, right? So what folks usually want us to do is to replicate what we did in 2017, which was the largest protest in history. We're beyond just protesting. We are now working into advocacy. We are now working into electing women into office. We are now working into, honestly, saving democracy more than anything. So it's grown in different directions. And as a grassroots movement, we take into consideration what each of the members would like to work on, right? So at this point, we are all really coalescing and making sure that reproductive rights are protected across the country, going state by state, making sure it's on the ballot, and making sure supporters go out and mobilize on the issue. So it's grown in different formats, and I think it's going to continue to grow. The issue of reproductive rights is not going to go away. It is the fall of one of the first rights that I've grown up with in my lifetime, from voting rights to now losing reproductive rights. We think it's critical that we continue to mobilize on the issue.
Okay. So since the press conference that you had, it's been a couple weeks removed from that. What has been the reaction that you've seen, and did you accomplish any of your goals?
Our goal is to continue to advocate and mobilize and stay loud on the issue. Absolutely, yes.
Okay. And then to kind of further that, obviously you want to keep the momentum going, keep the attention on these issues. What is in the future for the organization? What have you got planned, and where do you want to spread your message to next?
So if you go to our website, womensmarchfoundation.org, you will be able to see other actions that we continue to engage in advocacy, from equal pay to childcare. We're currently working on a Feminist Street initiative, which is our 3rd year, I believe. And what we work on is naming streets after women, naming streets after women across the country, from Missouri to New York to California, because women have always been powerful, but we've been invisible. As you know, most streets are named after politicians or folks that have served office, and women, unfortunately, have not been at the seats of power for too long. So we are invisible in terms of streets. So we've launched Feminist Street Initiative. We're currently working on RBG. in New York. We are working on a Dolores Huerta Street in Los Angeles.
Yes. I've heard that. Yep.
Among other streets, we've gotten a square named after her. So we do have advocacy campaigns. We do engage voters. We also have a program called Digital Divas, which is led by volunteers that fights misinformation on social media. So we do tend to be busy.
It sounds like it. It sounds like it. And I don't think there would ever be, you'd ever run out of projects to work on. So I mean that's good and bad, because there's a lot of work to be done, but it's all important work, right?
Absolutely. And it's also a slow build. I mean, we understand that it will take longer than we plan to get to equal, right? So now we've been sort of set back decades by the Supreme Court ruling. So
Right,
we
right.
must continue to advocate, and we understand that it takes time to really see the change that we want to see, but it also takes work. And so we've rolled up our sleeves and continue to do the everyday work in the effort to get to equal.
Got it. Okay. And I don't have really any more questions, but I wanted to ask you if there is any personal relationship you have to this movement. Is there any reason why this movement became important to you, aside from being a woman and advocating for women's rights? Is there any other reason for it?
Well, I'm one of 13 kids. I am what most people and I consider the American dream, right? My parents came to the United States and truly always believed that America is the greatest country. And so it is my part to help democracy to do that, but also not only because I'm a woman, because I think the world is better when women are equal. The
Oh,
other piece is that when you look at history and you look at when democracies fail and there is no democracy, it fails women first. And that's personal to me. I want to make sure that my kids, which I have two boys, that they also grow up with a future that makes sure that women are equal in the eyes of the law, right? So I think that that's my biggest issue, and it's personal for me because I always thought I was equal. It wasn't until
right, right.
all of this comes down, and again, one of the first rights to be struck down in my lifetime, which I never thought would happen. I needed to make sure that I was in this fight for the generations to come.
Got it. And I guess just to wrap up, how long do you think you will be involved in this organization? Is this a lifetime commitment for you, or do you have do you see a way out?
It's a lifetime commitment. It's a lifetime commitment. And the reason for that is because we've been set back decades. We have. And so it's a lifetime commitment. And again, it is for the future generations. They should not get less rights than what I grew up with or what you grew up with.
Right.
Our goal is to improve, not regress. And so it's a lifetime. And I think that most feminists and activists out there will tell you that this is the issue of our lifetime. All issues are women's issues.
Exactly. Okay.
So June was Pride Month, and on the last day of Pride Month, PFLAG held a forum on LGBTQIA plus issues at St. Stephen's here in Santa Clarita. So I had a chance to sit down with Peggy and Jeff Stabile, the founders of PFLAG, and we talked about how the organization was founded, and we talked about the importance of Pride Month and some of the events that were happening that month. I wanted to get you on to talk about because you are the founders of PFLAG, and if you can tell me a little bit about that story and how that came about.
Well, our son came out to us in 1988. I'm sorry, it was 1986. And for a while, I was very grieving very much about it. It was in the throes of the AIDS epidemic. I was worried about his health. I was worried about the community and the non-acceptance that we knew existed up here. But 2 years after he came out, there was an incident that happened here at St. Stephen's. A lesbian teacher was coming up to talk with educators about how to have safe schools for their LGBT students. So there was a picketing of 400 people out on the apron in front of St. Stephen's against this woman's coming. And one of the speakers was a mom who said that her child had gone to schools here for 12 years and never had a gay child in his class. And Jeff and I looked at each other and said, it's time for PFLAG to be up here. We had been going down to LA for 2 years for their PFLAG.
Okay.
So we started it up here, and it was in our house, and it finally got to the point where there were so many people coming that we just couldn't handle it all in the house. We had to look for a place, and came to St. Stephen's and asked the question, and right away said sure. So that was probably over 30 years ago, because PFLAG started 35 years ago. So it was maybe about 30, 32 years ago we asked here, and they said sure, no problem. It's been here ever since. It's been kind of a struggle, because initially we've been living here since 1979, so we've been here for 45 years. The community initially was not really accepting of our community. But on our 30th anniversary of PFLAG in this particular hall, we had the city council with a proclamation, a number of other awards, and it was mind-blowing that what we had experienced initially, and all of a sudden to have the city here, acknowledging it, and now they acknowledge every June as Pride Month, is really quite big.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of change that's happening. There's still some holdouts there in the community, and there's still a long ways to go. So, what do you think about? So St. Stephen's has been really welcoming, right, to PFLAG over the years, and you guys come here?
Yes, we actually transferred to St. Stephen's about 5 years ago. We were members of a Catholic church for all of our lives, and we were practicing Catholics. But unfortunately, the church seemed to be taking steps backward, and we felt we couldn't stay within the church any longer. We did try to talk to priests when they'd say negative comments from the pulpit, and they would listen, but it didn't have any real lasting impact. So we wanted to come to some place that we knew our child would be welcomed if he chose to come.
Because Jeff actually went to the backs of many churches to read the literature to find something that would say he was accepted, and he said he could find nothing, and that's what really kind of turned him off. And it was sad to hear that an individual will have to look around through all the literature on a church that supposedly is welcoming, everybody that comes in, as long as you follow these rules and do this and that. He couldn't find anything that would be accepting to him, and that's what took him away from the church.
Yeah. So, when you look at this Pride Month, do you think it's been a very successful Pride Month? That, I know there's a lot of events with PFLAG. How do you feel about this event and the other events that we've had at PFLAG here this month?
I think it's amazing to see how Pride Month is now being celebrated in Santa Clarita, and we thank everybody from PFLAG who have worked so hard and diligently to have this exposure and visibility and welcoming from the community as well. It was not until 2019 that we had actually our anniversary, the 30th anniversary, was the first public event we ever had where we invited people and had it in the newspaper. And it was 100 people showed up. And the following year, we had a picnic in the park at Richard Rio, and 300 people showed up. So now the multiple activities, which have been brought on by the new leadership, have been phenomenal.
And to really experience it, you should be in the crowd when PFLAG comes by during the 4th of July parade. And all the people stand up and cheer, etc. It's amazing to hear.
Oh yeah, and the people with the pride flags. It's the community is very accepting. So thank you for
Excited that has happened.
yeah, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Listening to KQRU 107.9 in Santa Clarita. You can listen to Santa Clarita Weekly on Saturday mornings at 9 and on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, or wherever you get podcasts. So let's switch gears. Let's talk about sports. Let's talk about the U.S. Men's Gymnastics Olympic Trials. So Jeremy Bischoff, Learning Post graduate who attended Stanford, was in Minneapolis for the U.S. Men's Gymnastics Olympic Trials. He did not make the team, despite posting some impressive results at the trials. His best events was at the pommel horse. He was 10th in that event. Patrick Hooper was the winner of the pommel horse. So Bischoff was only posted one top 10 result at the Olympic trials. He was 11th in the floor exercise, 12th in the rings, 14th in the horizontal bar, and 15th in the parallel bars. The gymnastic events at the Summer Olympics in Paris begin on July 27th. And let's talk about the Dodgers. So the Dodgers started the week by sweeping the White Sox in Chicago and saw the emergence of a potential number 2 starter in the rotation, but they ended the week losing 2 of 3 games to the Giants in San Francisco. Tim, can you discuss the impact of Shohei Ohtani's performance despite the Dodgers' struggles with the Giants?
How dare you, the Dodgers struggle. The Dodgers are not struggling. The Dodgers are still one of the best teams in baseball. They had a little bit of troubles with the Giants, but that is nothing new. The Giants and Dodgers rivalry is obviously healthy, and the Giants will play their best baseball when they face the Dodgers. So I don't know what you're talking about, saying the Dodgers are struggling. I've no struggles.
All right. So I'm glad we were able to clear that up. But that's our show. Tune in next week for more discussions about the news from Santa Clarita. You can listen to us on the radio at KQRU 107.9 FM at 9 on Saturday mornings. You can also watch us on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and listen to us on SantaClaritaStar.com or wherever you get podcasts.
Thank you for listening to Santa Clarita Weekly. You can watch the show on Santa Clarita Star's YouTube channel and Facebook page, as well as listen in on the radio at KQRU 107.9. Visit SantaClaritaStar.com for more content and tune in right here to KQRU 107.9. A new voice for Santa Clarita.
You are listening to KQRU 107.9, a new voice for Santa Clarita. KQRU is Santa Clarita's local station for indie alternatives and progressive talk with smooth jazz at night to soothe your mind after a hard day's work. Our station is entirely listener-supported through local donations with no commercials, so your support is extremely important to help us pay the rent for our antenna and broadcasting studio. Visit KQRU107.org to make a donation.